dot out there. To fill the sun, the whole volume of the sun, it takes more than 1.3 million Earths. The sun by itself weighs more than 99.8% of the total mass of the whole solar system, including all the planets, comets, asteroids, you name it. But then again, you get a little bit closer and you start seeing marvelous things about the sun. What we are seeing here is an image of solar eclipse, and what we see is what we call the solar corona. We see it only when when we mask the solar disk. And look at the beauty of this. It's so amazing. The complexity that is happening, that is there, but also all the shapes, all the magnetic fields we have there, so fascinating. And that complexity is reminiscent of the complex physics we have occurring right there in the solar atmosphere. So there are mysteries about the sun that have been discovered decades ago. But to this day, we don't really have a clear understanding of them. Let me go back. Yeah, this is supposed to be a movie. I'm not sure why it's not playing. If you can play it back there on the console, please, if you can play it. So anyway, when you look at the atmosphere of the sun that I showed just earlier, there is something that is so mysterious about it. You look at the temperature of the gas on the surface of the sun that we see with the naked eye, it's about 6,000 degrees Celsius. You go a very short distance above, and the temperature of the gas all of a sudden will jump to multi-million degrees. It's so fascinating, and this was discovered in the late 30s, and to this day, we don't really understand it. So imagine that you have a campfire. If you move away from it, it should cool down, but that does not work for the sun. And this is not unique to our star, the sun. You can see it in billions and billions of stars out there in the universe. Obviously, that boiling gas that we see out there, I'm not sure why the movies are not playing. Can you please look into this? So anyway, so that boiling gas at multi-million degrees obviously cannot stay static. It creates a flow that we call the solar wind. And then another side of it is also so fascinating about it. You look very close to the sun, and the speed of the particles is pretty low. But over a very short distance, they start flying at millions of kilometers per second, per hour. And the mystery is that we don't really know where they get the energy from. Another fascinating thing is, obviously, the sun is a magnetized star. It's extremely active. And what you are seeing here is all these flares and coronal mass ejections that we see the sun occurring in the sun almost all the time. The amount of energy that is released within one of these events can fulfill the energy needs of our current civilization for something like 40,000 years. The sun emits this energy in a matter of minutes to hours. That's impressive. So, I can't hear me? Okay, let me get it closer. Okay, yeah. So in order to understand all these phenomena that are so puzzling, since the late 50s, scientists want to send a probe as close as possible to the sun to try to understand what is going on there. And obviously, having a mission like this, and again, I'm not sure why the movies are not playing. If you can look at them, please. So NASA has tried to implement a mission like this one since the mid-70s. And it tried over and over again. And for five attempts did not come to fruition. Because having this mission is extremely hard. It's extremely hard to fly a spacecraft so close to a star and keep it safe. Back in 2001, NASA commissioned the Applied Physics Lab at Johns Hopkins to look into materials that can serve as a heat shield for the spacecraft. It took us about 6 years, and we actually found that material. And you cannot believe it. It is carbon foam. It's basically a carbon sponge. But this one is extremely sophisticated. It's very expensive. It took us something like 6 years to develop it and to build it. But once we knew that we have that material and it can protect the spacecraft, NASA gave the green light to go ahead with implementing missions. It took us a whole decade to build the spacecraft. And obviously, why it took a whole decade? Because we wanted to basically push materials to their extreme. We are going to fly this spacecraft in a very extreme environment, and we have to make sure that it will be safe, it will give us the data we need. So obviously you've built a spacecraft, put it on the top of the most powerful rocket that ever existed, and wish for the best. If you can please play the movie. And there is audio with it as well.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff of the mighty Delta IV Heavy rocket with NASA's Parker Solar Probe, a daring mission to shed light on the mysteries of our closest star, the Sun.
3R6 gauge look good in the full thrust mode. "25 seconds into flight. Chamber pressures continue to look good on all 3 boosters. Now 35 seconds in. Chamber pressure on the core booster is throttling down to the partial thrust mode.
So this is So this is the operation team that was getting ready to take control of the spacecraft after separation from the 3rd stage. And obviously you celebrate that. It's really a big moment for all of us. But there again, remind yourself that you are putting a tiny spacecraft in front of a star. And you start getting the data. And some of it doesn't really look good. Like these ones here. These are images of but it's really nothing like what we want. What this is showing here is basically the spacecraft is being bombarded by dust. And every time that it hits by dust, there is a cloud of material that is ejected from the spacecraft, and the cameras are only imaging that. So that's actually testimony of the harshness of the environment that the spacecraft is flying through. But that's not the only thing. The data we are getting from Parker Solar Probe is so fascinating that is solving basically mysteries that have been around for nearly a century. And this is one of them. This one is a mystery about stars out there in the universe. There is a physicist in 1929 called Henry Russell. He was looking at stars and he was looking at dust around stars. And he came to a conclusion that there should be a zone immediately around the star that should be totally devoid of dust. We call it the dust-free zone. And the reason for it is dust gets so hot and sublimates and gets cleaned out. And obviously people looked at this dust-free zone for decades. They looked at the sun, but there was no evidence for it. Parker Solar Probe from the very first orbit basically solved that mystery. And it's not only about the sun, it's about stars out there in the galaxy. Then Then we want to study solar activity, and this is one of the big events that Parker Solar Probe flew through. So this event actually occurred on September 5th, 2022. And this is one of the most powerful coronal mass ejection that occurred. It was actually traveling at more than 2,500 kilometers per second. And the funny thing, Parker Solar Probe was on the backside of the sun. And we knew that this CME hit the spacecraft, but for days, we don't really know how the spacecraft dealt with it. We had to wait until it emerges on the other side that we can talk to it and see how everything went. But obviously, everything went well, and the data we got from events like this one are actually shaping space weather for us. Other views also that are so mesmerizing, when we got closest to the sun, I want you to focus on this area out there. Oftentimes, when we look at the sun, we see material that is flying away from the sun to fill the whole heliosphere. But what Parker Solar Probe is showing us, actually there is a lot of material that is falling back to the sun. So imagine that we are not far away from the Himalayas. Imagine the Himalayas are all around the globe. And all of them, they have avalanches in the same time, and multiply that by thousands. That's actually what we are seeing there. This is material that is falling back to the sun. It reshapes magnetic fields. It influences activity in the solar corona. And all of that, to be honest with you, we don't really make sense of all of it. We don't really understand what is it all about yet. So that's all things that we are seeing for the first time. Then you got other events that like this coronal mass ejections that are balls of gas that are ejected by the sun. And what you see there, it's like a traffic jam of coronal mass ejections. They are piling up one on top of the other. And that's actually what causes space weather for us. I mean, in 2024, May 2024, we got that superstorm that when we saw aurora so low down in latitudes, that's actually caused by events from the sun. And then pretty sure many of you remember the event where SpaceX lost 40 satellites. That's actually was due to events like this one that erupted from the sun. And then obviously, you remind yourself that Parker Solar Probe is the fastest human-made object. If you pick a ride on Parker Solar Probe when it is going at its highest speed, you can actually cross whole India from north to south in about 30 seconds. It's fascinating. You can do the Earth-Moon in about half an hour. That's how fast this spacecraft is. And in terms of distance, if you imagine that the Sun-Earth distance is about 1 meter, Parker Solar Probe is about 2 centimeters away from the surface of the sun. So it's a mission that touches the sun. So I was saying, if the Sun-Earth distance was about 1 meter, Parker Solar Probe will be about 2 centimeters away from the surface of the sun. It is really flying within the atmosphere of the star itself. And that is something that we have been waiting for 60 years. And now we have it. But then you remind yourself, yeah, the sun is out there. There are many other things in the solar system that we need to look at. There are many planets, many other objects like comets, asteroids, you name it. And you can even go further than that. Look at the whole universe. It's full of stars. There is in the whole universe, there is a septillion stars. A septillion is basically, you write one and you put 23 zeros behind it. That's the number of stars out there in the universe. The sun is one of them. The fascinating thing is what we learned about our star, the sun, we can actually project it on other stars out there in the universe. And one of the big questions that comes back to that child question early on, why do you love space? Because there is one question that every one of us wants to answer. Are we alone in this universe? Is there life out there? And with that, I'm going to leave you with this movie. And I just want you to enjoy it. It's so fascinating. It will answer my son's question, Dad, why do you love space? Can you please put the audio with it?
so much. What a journey, and it's amazing. we're going to just ask you a couple of questions because you've already taken us somewhere so sublime. I don't want to even bring it back down to earth. But, when you are journeying across the universe like this, it's the eternal question human beings ask, that do you ever get a sense that there might be other life on earth?
I think that's
Life in the universe.
I think that's one of the most fascinating questions that all humanity wants to have the answer to. We don't have the answer for it now, but we are working so hard to try to figure out where life exists elsewhere. We are actually building now a mission that will go to Titan. It's a moon of Saturn, and that is basically an octocopter that was flying in different places there, trying to look at organic chemistry and see if we can do it. There are places in the solar system that are so promising. If you take, for example, Europa, we know that there is water in Europa, there is ice, there is ocean below the ice. There might be life there, but we have to keep looking.
So just absolute last question, that in all of this discovery that you've been, part of and you've been leading, including creating, again, we are having sound trouble, so I couldn't hear very clearly whether you spoke of the fact that just an 11-inch membrane separates 1500 degrees of heat from room temperature where your instruments are working. So just marvels of science. But in this entire journey of discovery, Noor, what for you has been the most moment of surprise or moment of awe? I would say even moment of divinity,
So let me go back a little bit in time when I was coming up as a student, and I learned actually about this mission. And my dream back then was if I can see it flying while I'm still active, and they can work on the data for it. But
sorry, if you can?
Yeah. But now being involved in this mission and leading it, it's really an absolute privilege. But the most important of all of this is really what we are learning out of it. That's so fascinating. It's not only we are making sense of what we didn't know, we are actually discovering new things that will keep generations to come busy. And that is really the essence of science, of exploration. And it's all about pushing the boundaries out there. And it's also about inspiring the next generations. I can tell you that I speak at schools, and every time I speak about this, the most satisfying thing for me is that these kids are so smart. They are way smarter than us. And every time I ask them, do you think that we are smarter than you? The answer is no, we are not smarter than us. And that's absolutely the best answer anybody can give.
The same way that the moon affects us, now that you've studied the sun and you see the sheer energy, of course, we know it helps us grow, helps us live, but are there ways in which the sun can impact us, our psychology? You say we are made of stardust,
Yeah.
So can it affect us physiologically?
Absolutely. We are actually born with a link to the sun, even if we don't realize it. We are born with it. You take any of us, if the sun is not there for a week or so, we actually get depressed.
Yeah, that's just set aside, but can it affect us at an atomic level?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You take the solar cycle. You can look at the humans. You will find traces of the solar cycle in our bodies. That's definitely, it's there. It affects us. And as you said, actually, without the sun, we wouldn't even exist. We owe our existence to this star that is out there, and it helps us to live. It helps us to thrive. It helps us to, everything that goes in our lives. The sun has a finger in it.
And you didn't answer my question. I am so unimpressed with our technology today. Console, I have to say this to you. We humans are in no danger of being overtaken. I want to have a village panchayat rather than the console technology we have right now. Last question, which you didn't answer, Noor, was my question about divinity. Last year, we had Heino Falke here, who imaged the black hole, another impossible feat. And he said when you go that deep into science, you actually come up against an intimation of divinity, that there's some intelligent design in the universe that science has no meaning or has no explanation for. Have you ever felt that?
in some sense, yes, but that's really a personal thing. It's really people will believe whatever they want in the way they don't believe whatever they want. But definitely for some people out there, science can prove faith. For others, it doesn't prove it. And it's really about, as you said, it's a personal thing. But that's actually, for me, I always like to separate the two. For me, science is about proof, is about facts. Belief is really the freedom of thinking, the way how to think about things. In a way, it gives you another dimension, even if you want to push your knowledge. So that's, in a way, they are related, but at the same time, you can see them unrelated.
Thank you so much, Noor, for existing in this place of pure discovery, pure science, and really expanding the absolute dimensions of human knowledge. A huge thank you to you, and thank you
so
for
much.
being here with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh.
such person is so arrogant person. Already mentally sick. When sickness comes, why don't you say thank you very much? Thank you very much. And I was wrong. My pain is there. That is, I was wrong. I did something wrong. So I have to change my life. Such person is so arrogant person. Already mentally sick. When sickness comes, why don't you say thank you very much? Thank you very much. And I was wrong. My pain is there. That is, I was wrong. I did something wrong.
Conversation as well as a musical journey,
So,
and
I
we're
have
going to
to
be
change
reassured
my
about why
life.
humans still reign supreme. Because when you hear music like that, then all is well in the world. We might need to wait just 5 more minutes because of the tech check that's happening. We're going to play a few more films, and as I said earlier, I had not thanked all our partners, so I'm just going to take this moment to thank everybody again, as well as share their visions after lunch when I want everyone's attention on it. But Shiv Nadar Foundation as our title partner, please give them a warm round of applause. It's really because of them that this is able to be put together. The Glenlivet, whose hospitality you're going to enjoy very shortly, but also because they really support the idea of originality. We want to thank BMW. You'll see their car outside, but again, it is this experience that they're really supporting. Navama, which controls and manages and augments some of the largest wealth accumulation in the country. They work with family offices and young entrepreneurs.
Such person is so arrogant person. Already mentally sick. When sickness comes, why don't you say thank you very much? Thank you very much. And I was wrong. My pain is there. That is, I was wrong. I did something wrong. So I have to change my life. Such person is so arrogant person. Already mentally sick. When sickness comes, why don't you say thank you very much.
Such a patient
Thank you
audience.
very
Soon
much.
after
And
the food
I
awaits.
was wrong.
Thank you.
My pain is there. That is, I was wrong. I did something wrong. So I have to change my life. Such person is so arrogant person. Already mentally sick. When sickness comes, why don't you say thank you very much? Thank you very much. And I was wrong. My pain is there. That is, I was wrong. I did something wrong.
Privacy and propaganda.
So
And
I have to
I'm
change
back.
my
Been
life.
a long break. Been getting a whole bunch of those. Jim, are you okay? Emails. I am. I've been very busy, and I'm looking forward to showing you some of the things I've been up to. But today we're going to focus on a new geoengineering company. That's right. For-profit geoengineering. And I'm not just talking about those two yahoos out on the West Coast make sunsets throwing balloons in the air. This time we're talking about a new company called Stardust Labs based out of Israel. Now, I previously covered them when there was just whispers on the internet about this company back in March. And at the time, in March, there was very little information on them. Israel's stealth geoengineering project on my Substack at climateviewer.substack.com. This was March 3rd, 2024. Now, since then, there hasn't been so much as a peep until Janos Pastor, former UN guy, he did a deep dive into the company and gave them some advice and published a report on Stardust Labs. And we're going to get into that and probably touch a little bit on the geoengineering governance issues that are arising as a result of this. And we're going to go into that into great detail in the next video. How about tomorrow night? Hey, I kept you guys waiting so long. I figured, why not? Let's dive back in 2 feet first, and let's do 2 videos this weekend. And you can look forward to more in the near future. And by near future, I don't mean a month from now. So for those who are here for the first time, if you're looking for any of my websites, come over to YouTube or Rumble at Climate Viewer on YouTube, Rumble, X, the Facebook, all the things. You can find links to all the things at connect.climateviewer.com. That'll link you to my 3 websites, all my socials. And without any further ado, let's get into it. So Israeli Stardust Labs and geoengineering governance, making money, blocking sunlight. Is this the new normal, or will this lead towards global governance? So the interesting thing about these guys, now I covered them previously. I'm going to throw their pictures up on the screen just briefly since, you might want to know who they are, but it's Professor Eli Waxman and Dr. Yanai Yedveb, excuse me. Now, where did they go? Where's the pop-ups? Why do I not have pop-ups? I need more pop-ups. All right, here we go. So this is Professor Eli Waxman right here. And he and his cohort, Yanai Yedveb, are CEO and co-founders of a stealth startup. Now you can see that they started in September of 2022. Now what's interesting is that they both, Professor Eli Waxman, head of the Particle Physics and Astrophysics Department of the Weizmann Institute and former chief scientist of the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission, and Dr. Yanai is former deputy chief scientist at the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission. These are the founders of this startup. Now, when I covered it back in March, they were calling it Stardust Solutions. So, of course, it made it very hard to find information on companies like Stardust Solutions because there literally wasn't there was like almost no information whatsoever about them. This is one of the articles, that mentioned them back February 14th of 2024. There was very little information on them. And anytime I would, Google Stardust Solutions, I went nowhereville. But now we've got the dirt on, the deets. I need the deets. You guys know I'm a deets person. Stardust operates as an investor funded startup incorporated in the United States with a subsidiary company in Israel where most of its activities are taking place. In fact, here's the addresses for both of those. Google Map links directly to Street View if you want to find them. Now that we know where they are and where they're working from, you can actually see that they have a website up now. It just basically says coming soon. Wonder where your boy got that cover image from. Yeah, I kind of borrowed it from their website. You guys can figure that out. For profit, for governments. Why for governments? What are you saying? I thought you said governance, not governments. Now we see what's going on here. So basically over here on LinkedIn, Janos Pastor, former executive director of the Carnegie climate change thing. I'll give you his details. Carnegie Climate Governance Initiative. There's that word, governance. He was also Carnegie Council and senior advisor to the UN Secretary General on climate change. And that's where I first heard of him, was some of his comments on geoengineering for the governments at the United Nations. To reflect on these and to come up with their ideas on what governance implications are and what can be done about them. I look forward to feedback on this report. Now, I actually did hit the guy up on X because he said that in this report that Stardust Labs would be, publishing this report on their website, and clearly, as of right now, there's nothing on the website. He did respond to me, and Mr. Pastor said that basically Stardust Labs website will be live in February. Stay tuned to that. This video is mainly about drawing attention to a new company, a new startup, a stealth startup Now, what is their business model and why does it matter? So this is kind of important, and I'm going to throw this up on the screen just so you guys can read along with me. Stardust does not receive any kind of funding other than from other form of support from the Israeli government. It says, nor does it have plans to have in the future any connections with the Israeli defense/security establishment. Okay. Interesting, you should point that out. Especially since, as we already stated, both of them used to work for the government at the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission, but they don't work for them anymore and they don't want anything to do with them. Okay. They got their funding from AWZ Ventures and Solar Edge Technologies, an Israeli NASDAQ traded renewable energy company. And the other, AWZ Ventures, is a Canadian Israel leading deep tech BC3. So we got a Canadian Israel company and an Israeli company that invested in an Israeli company that was incorporated in the United States. Are we all on the same page here now? Because this is starting to sound a little weird. Now, their business models, what's interesting is that they are, they've already got applications for relevant intellectual property has started, such as trademarks, copyrights, patents, that sort of stuff. Investors are taking a risk by anticipating that in the future, governments may adopt stratospheric aerosol injection technology, and if so, purchase the rights to use the technology developed by Stardust. If this expectation is not met, they are risking not receiving a return on their investment. So these two companies invested $15 million in an Israeli startup, which is incorporated in the United States, which has a sole purpose of, if in the future the government decides to block out the sun, they want to have the technology ready to deliver to service government contracts to geoengineer the world. I think that's kind of big news. I think that more people should be paying attention to Stardust Solutions, and that this is definitely something that should be on your radar. Now, let's put this into context. Now, I could go through, I'm not going to get into all the weeds of this. I highly suggest, if you guys want to learn more about this whole, the shenanigans going on over here, please come over and read the actual report. I mirrored the report. You can download it directly from my Substack. And, I highlighted what I considered to be the important parts, like developing a dispersion system prototype level, both in lab experiments and aerial checks. So are they already doing experiments outside? It sounds like they are. And then in the report, which was published September 2024, it says activities planned for the coming year: upgrading the prototype airborne dispersion system to an operational level, which will enable single particle dispersion at the required capacity from a future operational aircraft. Expanding the set of monitoring controls and testing them, this comprehensive toolkit will enable monitoring of controlling and essential aspects of a potential future stratospheric aerosol injection operation. This work will bring the monitoring toolkit to a prototype level of maturity. These capabilities will be further validated in high-altitude aerial monitoring experiments measuring stratospheric background characteristic. Oh, wait, did I just talk about that in the last video? I did. Because after some FOIA requests by Del Bigtree and Company over at thehighwire.com, ICANN, the Informed Consent Action Network, the day after they published those reports, the New York Times, I believe it was, let me check. I probably should double check that real quick. It was these guys right here. It was on, yes, it was the New York Times. Thank God, my memory's not gone yet. The U.S. is building an early warning system to detect geoengineering. And that was what my last video was about. So you guys can check that out. All the details are also on the Substack for that. If you guys haven't been to my Substack, please come over there, climateviewer.substack.com. All it takes is hitting that subscribe button and you'll get all the latest news in your inbox, and you'll be able to keep up with all of my latest deep dives into the things. Notice the all-seeing eye in the sky. To get people in on the, get in on the secret. We're going to go ahead and develop this stuff. We won't announce to the public what we're really doing. And that's why it's been very tough to find any information on it. I've been able to dig up the best information I can on it right now. It is something to keep your eye on. As I stated earlier, there are only a couple, right now, 3 companies operating in this space for profit. And I'll just mention them very quickly. In this report, all the way down on page 16, Make Sunsets. We talked about them at the outset. Make Sunsets is essentially, a different. They're built a little different. Let's just put it that way. We'll go to weathermodificationhistory.com. I'm going to click on timeline. It's the first entry on the timeline right here. Make Sunsets. Mexico bans Make Sunsets rogue geoengineering. That stops them from doing absolutely nothing. But you can see right here in the photo, this is Luke Eisman and Andrew Song filling up a balloon with helium and some sulfur dioxide. They sell these balloons to people who will invest in their cooling credits. And then Luke Eisman, and Andrew Song, they basically, make some money on this. And they filled out the silliest weather modification report in history, which of course outraged the entire freaking internet. In addition to all of the geoengineering community were just clutching their pearls along with me. Not going to say I didn't care, because I certainly did. But I said to Luke Eisman, he actually DM'd him on X, and I said, dude, I laughed my what's off when I read your weather modification report. And he said, at least I was honest. You got to give him a little bit of credit. Let's be real. So there's that versus, the let's just do it and then ask for forgiveness afterwards. 2 totally different approaches, I would say. But, details on them. And then Stardust Solutions. This is the group's called the Just Deliberation on the Alliance for Just Deliberation on Solar Geoengineering, in conjunction with the Forum for Climate Engineering Assessment, FCEA, used to be DC Geoengineering Group, and it's authored by Will Burns from American EDU, and I don't know this other individual, but regardless, the solar geoengineering ecosystem, key actors across the landscape of the field. And even in here, they're referring to them as Stardust Solutions, because that's what it was what it was called in the early articles. But as you can clearly see right here, in the very fine detail at the bottom, it says copyright 2023 Stardust Initiative, and they refer to themselves as Stardust Labs Ltd, Stardust Labs Limited, right there at the very bottom. So is it Stardust Solutions? Is it Stardust Labs Limited? I'm going to go with what they have on their website. That's the best information I can provide as of right now. And I hope that you guys will keep an eye on these people, because this is going to be, the future of geoengineering. Interestingly enough, I made the argument, what I called the Oppenheimer argument, that, just like with geoengineering and Robert Oppenheimer said, we're building a nuclear bomb because we believe that it'll save more lives than, it would take. And interestingly enough, geoengineering makes the same argument, and their Israeli office is on Oppenheimer Street. You just can't make these coincidences up. Well, with that being said, guys, I wanted to keep this short, and I'm going to keep it short, but I got two things I want to show you before we go. You guys are probably wondering where I was. I said I'm going to go into the geoengineering governance stuff. We're going to save that for the next video, because, what is this? Is this the World Economic Forum weighing in on geoengineering, building ethics, transparency, and inclusion into climate intervention research? Are they actually saying that they're going to start listening to us, that we're going to have a say in all of this? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. But, crazier things have happened. It's possible, but they basically have these 5 principles.
Startup announces reckless solar geoengineering experiments from April 2026. Washington, D.C., October 28, 2025. U.S. Israeli startup Stardust Solutions plans to begin outdoor experiments of a highly controversial solar geoengineering technology from April 2026, working towards potential deployment this decade, according to a Politico story published on October 24th and recent updates to Stardust's website. Solar geoengineering deployment is constrained by various norms and principles of international customary law and prohibited under a long-standing moratorium at the Convention on Biological Diversity. 1. According to the Center for International Environmental Law, CIEL, which monitors geoengineering developments, including companies like Stardust. Stardust also announced that it has raised $60 million in financing from a broad coalition of investors, ranging from Silicon Valley venture capitalists to the largest shareholder in luxury sports car manufacturer Ferrari and Italian football club Juventus, according to Politico. This is in addition to $15 million already raised from earlier investors, including controversial Israeli-Canadian venture capital firm AWZ, which has been accused of profiting from the ongoing genocide in Gaza and has a partnership with the Israeli Ministry of Defense's Directorate of Defense Research and Development. Solar geoengineering runs counter to a wide range of human rights obligations, including the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment, the right to life, the rights of future generations, and the collective and inherent rights of indigenous peoples. A 2023 report of the Human Rights Council Advisory Committee warned that geoengineering could undermine the rights of billions of people. CIL Geoengineering Campaign Manager Mary Church issued the following statement. By planning outdoor solar geoengineering experiments as soon as April 2026, openly aiming to commercialize the technology, and raising the prospect of deployment this decade, Stardust and its investors are accelerating a reckless race that threatens to put humanity on a path of no return to perpetual dependency on this extreme technology. Solar geoengineering is inherently unpredictable and risks further breaking an already broken climate system. With uneven global impacts predicted, deployment would create winners and losers, undermining the rights of billions of people and raising the central question of who gets to control the global thermostat. Deployment scenarios for the kind of technology that Stardust is developing involve continuous dumping of particles in the atmosphere over hundreds of years, with any pause or stop bringing the risk of rapidly spiraling temperatures as a result of termination shock. Solar geoengineering deployment would be ungovernable in a fair and democratic way, and would likely be controlled by a handful of major powers and corporations. Impossible to fully test for intended and unintended impacts without extended large-scale implementation. The line between testing and deployment is blurred, with small-scale experiments geared towards technology development and normalization. Stardust and its backers cannot be allowed to flout international law by developing and normalizing this extraordinarily dangerous technology. It's time for a non-use agreement to put solar geoengineering off the table for good and refocus urgently on tackling the root causes of the climate crisis. The news of Stardust's activities comes amid growing political momentum for a solar geoengineering non-use agreement. Countries across Africa, Europe, and the Pacific have signaled their support for a solar geoengineering non-use agreement, an initiative already backed by almost 600 multidisciplinary academics and almost 2,000 civil society organizations. African environment ministers reaffirmed and elaborated on their call for a non-use agreement at the recent 20th session of the African Ministerial Conference on the Environment, AMSON 20, calling for a United Nations General Assembly resolution on the matter. Media contact: Nicolo Sarno, CIL Global Media Relations. Press at seal.